Good afternoon and welcome to Real Chicks Rock Presents Real Discussions. I'm your host, Michelle Dusbert, and as always, I'm super excited to be here with you this afternoon. The time, the change, the climate, the season, it's September. I haven't been with you guys for a couple of weeks. I took Labor Day weekend off. I just wanted to just relax and just take it easy. Once a year, I typically do that. Once or twice a year, I just will take a day off. So I am back live with you guys. So thank you guys for watching our replay that we had for you 2 weeks ago. Today is a live show. Today we're going to be talking about a lot of different things as it pertains to our mental health. But first and foremost, I want to thank all of the new listeners that are checking us out today. We are nothing without you guys, old and new supporters. We thank you so much for taking the time to spend a little bit of time with us this afternoon as we talk about these things that impact us. I wanted to give a little background for those that don't know what Real Chicks Rock is all about. We're all about creatively collaborating to connect and raise an awareness about issues regarding women. By the way of community service, engagement, public speaking, our workshops, and the arts. And this platform, we've been doing this for a little bit of time now. It's been a couple of years, and we're always glad to be here because it gives us an opportunity to talk about the issues and topics that impact us the most. And it gives us an opportunity to bring in some people that I think are pretty knowledgeable about the topic that we're talking about, so they can be insightful, informative, and engaging. And we want to give people tools to empower them to be better in any aspect of their life. So that's what it's about. So today it's no different. Today's topic is a little bit, we're still in this pandemic, right? We're still sheltering in place. We're learning to adjust to a new normal. We're wearing these masks. We're social distancing. We're washing our hands more. We're being more cognizant of our immune system, our health, and our wellness. And it's 6 months in. Today's topic is 6 months in. Let's check our mental health. A lot of people are still struggling, going through depression. Suicide rates are going up. A lot of people who are single are having to deal with this alone by themselves. So it's a very difficult period in time. People have lost their jobs. We don't know what our economic situation is going to be in the next 3 to 6 months. We don't know what that looks like. It's a very heavy political year. We have an opportunity to vote for a new president. Change is on the horizon. We have people that are taking the change to the streets through the Black Lives Matter movement and through other organizations and rallies and protesting. And we're trying to do it through voting as well. So it's a lot of different things that are going on through this year. And unfortunately, this year is not done. We still have about 3 more months, and anything is possible. Anything can happen. So today I brought in a guest, someone that I met a couple of weeks ago. I just took to her spirit immediately. And I think she's really good at what she does. She's a counselor, right? And she's coming all the way of New Orleans. That's right. Represent NOLA, right? My guest today is Princess Lanclos. Hi, Princess. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. How's the weather? How's things in New Orleans? How's it
It's
going?
we're under a little bit of the weather, I think, just due to the tropical storm weather that has been kind of passing through the state. So we have been experiencing a lot of showers.
Yeah, a lot of showers, a lot of rain, and that type of thing. Nothing like Hurricane Katrina. Nothing
Oh
like
no,
that, right?
no, indeed,
No,
no.
no, we're going to talk about that too, just how things are going in New Orleans after that aftermath and things like that. Princess, tell the people a little bit about yourself. I hear an accent and it doesn't sound like it's from New Orleans.
No, it's not. So I'm originally from St. Croix, U.S.
Hmm.
Virgin Islands. I came to New Orleans in 2009 to start my education. So I went to Loyola University and got my bachelor's of science in psychology.
Hmm.
Continued working and pursuing a master's in counseling, and I'm currently finishing up my last semester in a PhD program for counselor education and supervision.
Awesome.
So I've been in New Orleans since 2009, and I call it home as well.
You call it home as well. New Orleans has been good to you. You look great, and you look great the very first day that we met. You seem to be very passionate about your career. Tell me, why did you choose that profession, Princess?
So I originally say that I was actually interested in criminal justice when I
Mm.
started going to school in undergrad. And I lost my father during my undergrad experience during my junior year. and I had to go see a grief counselor. The experience was bittersweet. I thought it could be a better experience, and so I took from it what I needed to get from it and proceeded throughout my life. But then I actually took a job in at a girls group home and really advocated for them to seek counseling because they were dealing with, being in between homes as far as the girls group home and going home to their parents on the weekend, and just really needing that support system that counseling provided. And through that experience, I decided that, hey, I think this is a profession that I really want to be passionate about, really want to participate in, really want to serve the community in. I think it's a role that came naturally to me. And so I decided to pursue it. And yeah, that's pretty much how that happened.
Wow. Counseling is not an easy thing because you have to position yourself to be a good listener, right?
Yeah.
And to try to be non-biased in a lot of conversations and topics, but yet also kind of keep the door open so people can continue to come back and share and express. How do you determine if someone is changing, or how do you determine one's growth when they come to see you as a counselor? Is it easy to detect, or?
Yeah, I think the most important thing to remember is that the client sets their own goals.
Okay.
We're not here, I think that's really the difference between life coaching and counseling.
Okay.
We're not really here to tell you exactly what to do. We're here to kind of be a guide for you, be that unbiased soundboard that you need. But you set your own goals and you determine what kind of quality of life that you want. And we help you kind of get the tools and the guidance to get there. And so truly, I think a lot of the work is done we collaborate, and so for people to understand that this is not something that you're doing on your own, but it's something that we're rooting for you. We're here to support you through this. And like I said, it's not really about being right or wrong, but really determining what's best for you, what works for you.
Now, Princess, prior to the pandemic, was it safe to say that you were seeing people for counseling, and was their health or wellness overall improving at that time? Did you see things kind of improving in the state of mental health for people?
I think it depends what that their presenting issue was.
Okay.
When they came to counseling prior to the pandemic, I will say, since the pandemic has started, a lot of issues around anxiety and depression, of course, have surfaced due to the isolation due to quarantine.
Yeah.
In addition to a lot of people losing their employment, I think that has been one of the barriers to people seeking mental health treatment, is worrying about how do I pay for services? And so making sure that, finances are never truly a barrier for you to seek mental health wellness, and just pay attention to your wellness overall.
Yeah. So what are some of the triggers you're seeing now, Princess, now that we're in this pandemic and still shelter in place and isolation and trying to identify a new normal? And now we have kids that have to go back to school. And so that's a factor, right? So what are some of the triggers that you're seeing with the people that are coming to you for counseling?
Yeah, so I would definitely say, I think you hit it right on the head with that, like everybody being at home. So you're isolated from some of the social activities that you were used to engaging in, but also dealing with, okay, what does this new work-life balance look like? If you're working from home, trying to balance the kids, engaging in virtual learning. In addition to, we also have police brutality that's been happening since the pandemic has started. And so the anxiety, like symptoms of anxiety and depression, and fear that kind of comes with that as well.
It's just a lot of different things. How can we determine someone's health if it's deteriorating? How do we tell that's happening?
Yeah, so I think people need to pay attention to what they're comfortable with. But also, if you're paying attention to that increase, like I want to sleep all day, you want to eat all day, or you're not eating at all, just being in this constant, like you're not feeling like yourself. I think people know themselves, and they know what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And so making sure, like if you're not feeling good, don't ignore it. Don't sweep it under the rug. Talk about it, seek professional help if you need to. And so really pay attention to those telltale signs. And if they're not paying attention to themselves, I'm sure there are friends and family members who will take note that, hey, you're not acting like yourself. And you may even, if it's not the drowsiness or the increase or decrease in eating habits, it may be that like constant agitation. You're very agitated all the time. And so really getting to the root of that, the source of that as well.
Yeah, agitation is good. I mean, that's an indication, because it's very difficult, because we're frustrated, right? Because we know there's a positive side to us, right? We're trying to affirm ourselves and stay in a positive space, and we know that this is going to pass, right? This too shall pass. But I think the agitation is that we don't know when it's going to pass. And it seems like we don't have control as a consumer, as an American. We just, especially as a Black American, we feel like the walls at times are coming in on us because of the social injustice, because of the police brutality, because, fill in the blank. So it just seems like there's just more stress or more real life situations that are on top of us. And now we can't go out and get lit, right? We can't, we can't go and turn up. We can't do the things that we used to do to kind of release the stress. Right. Even if it meant just going to the library or to a coffee shop or going out to dinner, things that we used to do to kind of balance these things, these injustices or these things that are happening in our life. We don't have those outlets, or they're not readily available to us like they used to. Like, they're limited in time or availability. They're limited in space, right? There's only but so many people that can be in certain locations and spaces at one time. So it's just a lot for us to take in and take on. So is there anything that we could do to kind of just keep our mind clear? Like, what else can we do? Because sometimes, Princess, and this has happened to us often in the Black community, that even when we have things going on, there's some people in our village that'll say, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing. You're going to be all right. You know, there's nothing going on with you. You're going to be all right. So whenever it deals with our health, especially our mental well-being, it's not always taken seriously. You know,
Yeah.
is that a fair statement?
Yeah, it is. I would say specifically to the Black community as well. I think we have to acknowledge and reflect, what are we actually in control of? And the coping skills that we've been using to deal with issues that we've had in the past, were they effective?
Yeah.
Were we still having those issues after all the partying and the celebration? Those issues were still there. And so, not to neglect that, hey, there is always, room for celebration. There's always a great experience with that. But I think it was an opportunity for us to really reflect on, how are we truly adjusting to the times, and how are we truly coping with everything that is happening, and are we using healthy skills to do so? And so, having the opportunity to reflect either with your social support or with a professional about what is healthy. And so taking that time to either meditate, to journal, and truly get to know yourself. I think we got caught up just with the way things were progressing, in just like the hype of social media, and just allowing ourselves to be distracted. When we were faced with our inner issues, any kind of demons that we were facing, whatever the issues were, we were kind of sweeping them on the rug and just kind of dealing with the distractions to kind of deal with that. Yeah. And so I think it challenged a lot of people to really face those issues and really address them. And so I think when we're looking at the pandemic, when we're looking at things like that, we have to look for that silver lining. I always tell clients to look at, what are you actually in control of? What changes are you actually in control of? We're not in control of what other people's decision-making skills are, what their actions are, but we're in control of how we react and how we adjust. I think in order to come on top and feel like you are successful with the times that we're dealing with, it's truly coming down to your ability to adapt. And so what you're choosing, what tools are you using, how are you using this time? And I think for a lot of people, taking the time to truly reflect on who they've been, where they want to be, what tools that they have, what they can use to grow. And I think that's truly empowering. And I think people need to spend some time feeling empowered, in addition to spending some time with their family. I think a lot of us got caught up in just kind of going on to the next thing. And so now we're in this situation where we have to be around each other. Take that time and get to know each other. What are your challenges? What are your strengths, and how can we play off of that? And truly learn how to communicate with each other as well.
Yeah, it is a very vital time. A lot of people are reinventing themselves, if you will, right? Taking this opportunity to do the work, to understand who they really are, and purging themselves from things that are toxic, that just really doesn't add value. It is hard, though. Adaption is hard. Change is hard. We never like that, Princess. You make it seem easy. Like, oh, adapt. We don't like that stuff. We don't like change. We don't like change.
Is that change is uncomfortable.
Yes.
going to be uncomfortable and it's going to be challenging. And a lot of the work that you're going to do in session, you also have to do out of session, and that is how you're going to see the true progress. And so being prepared for that battle, but also knowing what are your supports, what are your systems, what are your tools that you have there for you to ground you. And so whether and I think a lot of people feel like they have to choose between therapy and religion, and you don't.
Okay.
You know, make sure that you ground yourself. Faith has always, for me, I consider myself spiritual.
Yes.
And so I pull from different, you know, religions and different practices, and whatever grounds me, whatever feels good, whatever centers me is what I use. And so being able to make sure that you can incorporate spirituality into your, you know, whatever it is that you're trying to do for self-care. Because I think something that I've been constantly telling clients over and over again is that self-care is a necessity, is not a luxury. And so for a long time, you know, we've been caught up in this lifestyle of going and going that we put it on the back burner. And a lot of us were burnt out and acknowledged it or didn't acknowledge it. And so now this is the time to really address and make the changes that you need to make to prioritize self-care. Because when you do so, you're going to be more effective for everyone around you. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And I think that was a harsh reality for a lot of people to face.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are willing to make the change as well because we have the time to do so.
Yeah. I like that. A good friend of mine, Anana Harris Paris, founder of Sister Caroline's, she always says that self-care is a revolutionary act. That's how powerful it is, because we just take for granted that we don't need it, and we absolutely do need it. Princess, I want you to help some other people. I know there are still quite a few people that are struggling with the whole shelter in place, the pandemic, COVID-19, whatever you want to call it. They're still reluctant in going out, still having an issue and just being amongst other people. Still thinks there's a lot of conspiracy theories behind it. Just a lot of things going on. So if I was such a person, what would you say to me to kind of get me encouraged or enlightened? Or what would you say to me to kind of get me going in the right direction to come back into society? Because right now I feel like I can't handle this.
So I think the biggest thing is for individuals to set goals.
Okay.
Like, what is it that you truly want to achieve during this time? Where do you see yourself? Because this too shall pass.
Okay.
It's not going to be our forever. You know, and a part of that is like that adaptability that we were talking about. And so taking the time to reflect and get to know yourself. Know what you like, what you don't like, but pay attention to your strengths.
Okay.
I think a lot of us are very critical about ourselves. We're like our harshest critics. And so really paying attention to those strengths and how can we use those strengths to overcome. And so I know a lot of people have taken this time to say, hey, I'm unemployed. Guess what? I'm going to start that business that I really wanted to start. But a lot of people are also taking the seat back and be like, you know what? I think I really need to start practicing meditation. I really need to start practicing paying attention to how I feel and not ignoring those feelings.
Right.
And allowing yourself to feel those things as well and expressing them and seeking the professional help that you need to seek. And whether it is a counselor, whether it is a social worker, a life coach, whoever you feel comfortable with, whoever you align, take that opportunity to do so. Do that self-work, because you're going to come out better than you were in the beginning if you take the time to do that self-work. I can't stress enough how important it is for people to really pay attention to themselves and to really analyze how the relationships that they have around them are serving them, and really taking the time to really reflect on that and just have a plan moving forward. I think a lot of people get caught up in like, oh my God, this is happening.
Yes.
And it's great to be present. I'm always stressing how important it is to be grounded, to be present, to pay attention. I think before I start sessions, for majority of my clients, I take an opportunity for them to close their eyes. I said, pay attention to the sound that's furthest from you, that's in the room, and now listen to your breathing. And just really center yourself and be present so that you can focus on the work that needs to be done. But I think a lot of people get caught up in the anxiety of the uncertainty of the uncertainty of employment, of a lot of things, election. It's very anxiety provoking. But again, ask yourself, what do you really have control over? You have control over your right to vote. Go out and vote. That's on the to-do list. That is one of your goals. I'm going to go out and vote. Whatever is the outcome, you did your part.
Right.
and then continuing to advocate. When we talk about the Black Lives Matter movement, I think a lot of people felt conflicted. They felt like I should be out there protesting, but
Right.
I'm tired. I'm exhausted. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Everybody is advocating in their own way. Whether it's that you're shopping Black and you're buying from small business owners that are predominantly Black, or whatever it is that you're doing, you don't have to actually be out in the streets. Even if you're just checking on yourself and checking on others, that is still part of that work that needs to be done, because I think the biggest part of the core of it is that we're collaborating, we're not competing against each other.
Nice.
And we have that sense of unity and that support and that community and that village that we need to progress forward. So taking the time to form that village for yourself, taking the time to make sure that you have those supports established for you so you can have a plan. Because I think what people fail to realize, a lot of success is due to preparation. So don't feel as though if you're using this time to prepare that it's wasted time.
Yeah.
Because it's not.
Wow.
So be patient with yourself about that, because this is our time to prepare for what's to come. We do have only a few months left in 2020. I know a lot of us came into 2020 like this is our year, 2020 vision. I'm going to tackle all the goals. I'm going to secure the flag, whatever it is that everybody.
Yeah.
Pandemic hit, everything just kept going and going, and it's just like people are dying, and it's it's okay. But I think this is the part where some people's spirituality came into place. And it was just kind of like, what is this telling me?
Right.
And I was like, take this time to reflect. Maybe we're going too fast. And I think we have to remember that we're going to go further together.
Yeah.
You want to get somewhere, you can go faster by yourself, but you're going to go further together. So taking that time to truly reflect on that and really secure that village and the foundation and prepare yourself for 2021. It's going to be okay.
Wow, that was a lot of nuggets in there. A lot of good things in there, Princess. So many things that you said there. I think oftentimes we do beat up ourselves. We don't focus on our strengths. We look at our weakness. We take the woe is me. I am not necessarily feel sorry for me, but I'm just in this pity state, if you will, in some cases. And I just want people to take it one day at a time. I think that's the best thing that we can also advise people, and do the things that they like to do. I think when you're dealing with anxiety, or depression, or this, I'm not in control, you stem away from the things that you like, that gave you happiness or joy. That could be as easy as maybe walks in the park, or exercising outdoors, or dancing at home more, or whatever it is that you used to do that you're finding yourself reluctant in doing because of everything that's going on, right? And there's also the thing too, that there's so many people at home with you, if you do have family at home, that you don't have a minute to yourself. So oftentimes people don't have an opportunity to exhale and have those moments to really think about what's important for them, because they're doing so much for everybody else in the house. So it's just so many different variables that people are going through at this time, but we want everybody to remain encouraged to just take it one day at a time, right?
And also, I think a point with that is I have a lot of moms, new moms, especially, who are just trying to adapt. Like, I don't have any time to myself. I underestimate that time that we have in the bathroom. Okay? We underestimate that we prioritize. If you got to go, there's no question about it. Nobody questions it. Everybody excuses it. They give you that time. That time, we're supposed to be washing our hands for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Take that time to reflect. Take that time to breathe. Right. I think a lot of us are not paying attention to the fact that we're not breathing. We have our shoulders up to our ears. Our jaws are constantly. A lot of that stress and anxiety, and we don't even realize it.
Yeah.
Take a moment to breathe and look yourself in the mirror and be like, let me adjust.
Yeah.
Let me recenter. Because again, and ask yourself, okay, there are things that you don't have control over. And like I said, a lot of that anxiety that we're having are things that we're trying to control that we cannot control, and we need to accept that and work with it. Get your family together to meditate with you. Have meditation breaks with you. Incorporate that into the virtual learning, and to create new family routines. I think a lot of people are afraid of change. Okay, so we need to start looking at change as an opportunity.
Yeah.
Stop looking at it as an obstacle.
Yeah, yeah. And let me ask you, Princess, what is your definition of meditation? I know you've referenced that a few times in our conversation today. What is your definition of meditation?
It's what you need it to be.
Okay.
Okay. So I think for some people, um, I myself, I can speak to me personally. Like I'm very spiritual, and I have a lot of practices that are around and reflecting and honoring my ancestors that came before
Mm,
me. And so taking that time to really sit there and talk to them, taking that
right.
time to really reflect on all the things that I've accomplished, and where I'm going and where I want to be, and speaking that into the universe, speaking that into existence. But for some people, it may just be turning on a Headspace app,
Okay.
taking that 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I think for those who have an Apple Watch, there's a reminder that comes with that watch that reminds you to breathe, that a
Mm,
lot of people ignore.
mm,
So go ahead and pay attention to that as well. Or turning on rain music, whatever it is. But I think also from me being from the Virgin Islands, I listen to soca music. And sometimes that is grounding and meditating for me, to listen
yeah.
to a soca song and dance and center
Right.
myself and remind myself where I'm from,
Right.
and feel empowered by that. And
Mm-hmm.
that is grounding and meditation for me as well. But I think that for the core meditation is that opportunity to truly reflect and to feel like yourself, and you
Mm,
can take that mask off
right.
and those clothes off. I think a lot of us wear hats, and so whether it's a mom, you're a wife, you're a teacher, whatever your job is,
Mm-hmm.
whatever different roles that you have, but when do you take that time to acknowledge that, like, okay, I'm Princess. Who
Right.
are you?
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
are you outside of those different roles? Do you even know who you are and what
Yeah.
you like?
Yeah.
And so for me, even if it's something like dancing to soca music, at least I'm reminded who I am. This is where I'm from. This is who I am. This is what I like to be. And I feel grounded and I feel good and I feel, like myself. And that can be meditation for me as well.
Mm-hmm. We talked about Black Lives Matter movement. Do you still think it continues to make a difference with everything that's going on?
Yeah, I think a lot of us have to stop letting social media dictate what is important to us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, just because we have moments where things are trending excessively,
Right.
and this is what social media is. Okay, but we know in our hearts that hypervigilance, that we're feeling that fear, that concern,
Mm-hmm.
that worry, that passion that we feel about social justice, that never leaves us. And for a lot of us, we were born into it.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna, and we can talk. We can have a whole separate conversation about that generational historical trauma
Right.
that is already incorporated into us
Mm.
as we come out the room and we're in our community.
Yeah.
That really leaves us, and so we're constantly, especially when we're in spaces that are predominantly white, we're on edge.
Yes.
We're paying attention to our surroundings, and we're not truly comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
To acknowledge that, yes, the Black Lives Matter movement was created around a certain time, but we've been dealing with this, and I've been interviewing people for my dissertation around police brutality, and everybody always cites that moment, that Rodney King.
Mm-hmm.
That
Right.
always, so it's, if we really, the Black Lives Matter movement is not just about the specific movement. It's about us coming together as a community and truly advocating for a change and not being silent about it,
Right.
and just keep pushing the agenda until we see the change that we want to see.
Mm-hmm.
And so just because you may not post on social media about it, or we may not speak about it, doesn't mean that we're not doing the work that needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that the movement has stopped. I think, like I said, everybody's participating in the way that they can and are able to. But, be patient with yourself, be kind with yourself, and also acknowledge your strengths as
Yeah.
well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that people have to remember that as well when they're talking about the Black Lives Matter movement.
Social injustice continues, Princess. It just won't stop.
Yeah.
Incarcerations are going up and down, or about the same. What's your take on that? What's going on? And I know there's a different temperature in each city, so feel free to speak upon it in New Orleans for us if you like.
I know in New Orleans, Louisiana, there is a lot of discussion. We are known for how much we incarcerate individuals, predominantly African American men and women. And so that has been in the media, that has been in the news. That is a statistic. I think a lot of people associate Louisiana, they talk about Angola prison. So that's nothing new. But I think for me, primarily, I have done groups in the jail. I've been in that light as well as, you know, done work with people who have been, you know, had an opportunity to be released and they're trying to reintegrate back into the community and dealing with those families as well. And I think for a lot of people, they have to remember, and some people may not like this comparison, but I think for me, it kind of hits home and it allows people to kind of get past that obstacle, but to really think about incarceration as when individuals are deployed, because that's what it is. They're sent off, you know, and their families are missing them. They're missing that role. They're missing that opportunity for that person to provide those resources as well. And a lot of children are growing up without fathers, without mothers, whatever the case may be.
Right.
And when those individuals are in there, they're experiencing a lot of trauma, and they come back and they're never the same. Families are never the same. And so when they are reintegrated back and they come back into the community, they're trying to adjust and find their role. The families are trying to figure out how this is going to go because they adjusted to them being gone.
Right.
And it's just a lot of difficulties, a lot of obstacles, a lot of trauma, a lot of hard discussions to be had, and things are just never truly the same. And so when we're living in a country that is perpetuating this kind of it's really this damage that is happening into our communities. It's very hurtful, it's impactful, and it's hard to not feel like it's an injustice, because it is.
It is.
You know, so a lot of people like to point fingers like, oh, if they did this or they did that. And I think even with the Black Lives Matter movement, there has been arguments about like, oh, he should have just did this, or if he had just, you know, and it's just like, we shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
You know, and it's so like, if things are truly supposed to be fair. And of course, I think I grew up, my mother constantly telling me life is never fair. You know, you're constantly told that. And so I spent so much time preparing, you know, trying to obtain these degrees and secure these, you know, specific jobs, and but all in hopes of making a change in the community that I was in, also sending a message back home. That just because you may have grown up in an environment, but that it doesn't have to be this way forever.
Right.
And we are catalysts for change, but we have to, you know, be strong and have the courage and have the village to do so. And I think what a lot of people have to remember with people who are incarcerated is that to have patience and compassion.
Yeah.
Also allow individuals to, and really encourage them to seek out those resources to help them, because even in the African American community especially, we don't talk about mental health.
Right.
And when we do, there's so much stigma around it. People feel like if you're talking about mental health, we're talking about mental illness. And I think people need to be able to really separate that, because just because we're talking about mental health, it's encompassing.
Yes.
It is not. It doesn't mean that we're diagnosing you with something. It means that I'm encouraging you to prioritize taking care of yourself mentally and emotionally.
Right.
We go to the doctor and take care of ourselves physically. You know, and so changing that attitude that we have towards it, changing the pressure that we put on Black women in our community to be super women and not, you know, and put their own feelings, their own, whatever they're feeling, whatever they're experiencing, put it on the back burner and be self-sacrificial and serve. And so taking that moment to break those cycles and say, hey, you're not doing okay. This is not, let this not be our norm. You know, whatever violence that we may be having in our community, we have Black men who feel like they can't be vulnerable. They have to be in this box. Always being this very hyper masculine, allowing them to feel, allowing them to cry, teaching our sons that it's okay. You know, teaching our daughters that it's okay to express your feelings as well. And you don't always have to be strong. And that we can work together and get through this together. And I think that is a lot of the conversation that happens when we're talking about individuals who are incarcerated and coming back, but also making sure that we maintain that communication, maintain that hope for those who are incarcerated, and so that they don't lose hope as well.
The conversations within a Black home is so totally different than any other home. And I think now with everything that's going on, people are really starting to understand how our upbringing is so different for other cultures, right? And even now, because the mere fact that your mom had to tell you that life isn't fair, that isn't a conversation that's happening in other households per se, right? It's really primarily within our race, within our community, that we have to go the extra distance. We have to be prepared. We have to, there's conversations now where parents are telling their sons not to wear a hood. So it's just a different dynamic. It's unfortunate. And that we hope that things will change. We're starting to see a little bit of change, but we're talking about 400 years. It's just a lot to overcome in a short period of time. And we're just starting to chip at the iceberg, but it is a lot. And it is oftentimes we don't know how to handle someone's mental space, especially when the family dynamic has changed, like you were saying. Incarceration is something that is very difficult for our families, and it's happening, right, wrong, or indifferent. Sometimes our people are getting incarcerated unjustly. And what can we do about that? We're dealing with that piece of it. And then the fact that there's this time that they won't be here, and then when they come back home. So it's just so much going on that, it's a lot, but we're still here. I really like the Superwoman comment, because we are learning to not do that. Like yesterday I was supposed to work, I didn't work. And I don't feel guilty about it. Because we feel like that every hour or minute of the day we need to be doing something. Something needs to be done. And it's probably true, but it's not for us to do it all at once, right? We have to know when to relax. When is it important to put back into yourself? Sometimes just watching a favorite program, or just being on the phone, or just doing nothing at all, or getting some rest, are all the ingredients that you need to continue to be a better you. So doing everything at once for everyone all the time, you're wearing yourself thin.
Michelle, it's about balance. And I think a lot of us, struggle with that. And not that it may not necessarily get easier as we continue to just take on things, our plates continue to be, but it's about balance, and it's about prioritizing, and it's about preparing and organizing.
Right.
And truly taking the time to do so. And also, and having boundaries.
Yeah.
I think we put ourselves in positions where we feel like we have to answer to everyone and everything, and we always have to, and show up. And it's okay if you're not feeling that dinner date, you don't have to go. Saying so, and not feeling so pressured to always say yes to everything.
Yes.
And not feeling pressure to give an answer to everyone. And so it's just one of those things where you can say, like, actually, I'm not going to make it, or, I'm thinking I'm going to just take this time for myself, and not feel like you have to explain yourself. I think we have to get out of that habit as well, and feeling comfortable advocating for ourselves and our needs, and stop putting ourselves in these very uncomfortable positions. And because what it results in is a lot of resent, and just resent with ourselves as well, and shame and guilt. And so really stepping outside of that, and just really answering to ourselves and being honest with ourselves and those around us.
Right. Princess, I want to talk to you about Hurricane Katrina. I do. Just so much has happened to New Orleans. That was very unfortunate, but that was nature. That was Mother Nature just doing what it does, and decided it wanted to land where it did, and it just had a tremendous impact to the city of New Orleans. Now that it's so many years past, have you seen a difference there for New Orleans? Has things improved for our people there?
So I will say, like I said, I came here in '09. I was still in the Virgin Islands during the time that Katrina happened. But I grew up in a military household, so both of my parents were faced with that opportunity to be deployed to New Orleans to assist with those relief efforts. And so that was a conversation in our household, and I think a conversation when I came to New Orleans originally, and being in a cohort where individuals were still kind of dealing with some of the traumatic effects of Katrina. And I think even now more so, I'm a very strong advocate. It doesn't matter if I am, working in the prison, if I'm working with substance use clients, private practice, whatever the case may be. But when that anniversary comes up, I'm very, cognizant about it. I'm like, hey, how are you doing? And making sure that people feel supported in that moment. As far as the city of New Orleans, I will say, New Orleans has its up and downs like any other city. I think currently we are dealing with that issue of gentrification that is happening across the country. And so I think since Katrina, you have really seen that kind of pick up. And that has been a lot of the added stressor for a lot of individuals as
Right.
well. But I will say there has been specific attention and resources towards mental health since Katrina has happened. And I'm very proud about that. Of course, there's always room for growth. But I think that really highlighted some attention that needed to be attended to as far as mental health and resources available for everyone, and making them accessible as well. And so seeing that, serving on different different committees, and really respecting that, hey, that the community, the community of color, that predominantly the minorities in the city need access to these resources, and how can we serve, and how can we make them feel comfortable coming to us. And I think that's what it is as well, that stigma and that obstacle that prior to, a lot of people are stuck in that, like, they were never there for us, like, why now,
Right.
and so people feel comfortable, and a lot of that has been really encouraging people of color to go and seek those professions and get those degrees and put yourself in that position to serve your community, because I think a therapist of color does make a difference for a lot of people. It does make a difference for some of these children who were born during that time. I think that has been a topic of discussion, because a lot of people have seen that what they call quote unquote Katrina babies having a lot of difficulties in school with attention, or opposition, just may be difficult to deal with. And I think a lot of that speaks to some of that unresolved trauma that they experienced, whether it was in the womb or growing up as a child, but also their parent. And so really addressing and normalizing that, hey, counseling is an option. These are the resources that are available to you. And so I have seen that change as well. And then, of course, I think the year that I came to New Orleans, the Saints won the Super Bowl. And so that was a true spirit lifter for the city. And I think a lot of spirits were lifted. There was a lot of positive momentum going for the city overall. And so, I mean, since Katrina, things have grown. But like I said, there's always more room for growth as well.
Princess, can you share with the listeners some of the free mental health screenings or counseling services that might be afforded to us if we really need it? How do we get to it?
So I think it differs from state to state, but I always encourage people, when you call those hotlines, whether if it's a crisis hotline for us, I know, and I think it may be statewide, 211. If you call that hotline, if you call a suicide hotline, and you can just ask them a question, it doesn't necessarily has to be that, hey, I'm in trouble, but just, hey, I need some resources. They have them for you. I think reaching out to those local Department of Health or whatever resources that are local for you. For us, it is the Metropolitan Human Services District. They provide a lot of those resources. But I think what people fail to realize is that you have that opportunity to talk to your primary care physician. You go and see them. Tell them, hey, I don't feel right. And what people fail to realize is a lot of primary care physicians actually prescribe some of those mental health medications, and encourage people to go see those counselors, and hey, I know someone. I know for me, especially when I go to my primary care physician, my OBGYN, if you're going to go see her as well, or him, talking to them about that. I've told them, here's my card. They're like, I thank you, I appreciate it, because I have people asking for resources, or specifically looking for a therapist of color and not knowing where to turn. And so don't negate that we have been working hard as a mental health profession to really integrate with medical professionals, and really give them that knowledge that we're here, what are our resources, what is our role. Because I think what people fail to realize is that the way of the future, how things are going, is that no one just has one person that they're seeing for their health. And we're looking at things holistically. So you may have, like I said, your OBGYN, your primary care physician, you may see someone for blood work, you may see someone for cardiology, or whatever the case may be, but having those conversations with the professionals, because they have those knowledge, they have that knowledge. But also we're talking to the professionals to be like, hey, don't hold back. If you're noticing those things, have that conversation with them, and don't make it feel uncomfortable. Because I think a lot of people are uncomfortable talking and being honest about, whatever struggles that they're facing.
Right. Because oftentimes struggles mean embarrassment, like we're embarrassed by what's going on and the fact that we don't have it together. The mere fact that we have to even come up with enough courage to say that I think I have a problem is a lot, for people. So we just have to come to grips to understand that there are services, there are opportunities out here for us to get the help that we need.
Yeah, normalizing asking for help. I think not just for Black women, but just in our community as well.
Yeah.
That, we have a lot of pride and we're like, we're not going to ask for help, or even asking for help from professionals that don't look like us, and so when we're in those situations as well. But normalizing that it's okay to ask for help. Like people are being funded to provide you help. So take advantage of that, those resources, because they're there for you.
Princess, are you seeing more clients now with the pandemic, or has it been about the same? How's it been going for you in your services?
So I think there was this pause in services, as a lot of people were like, oh, what now? Because you were seeing in person, and then we're switching to telehealth.
Yeah.
So that transition, you had some people who may have been of the older generation and not really comfortable with technology, who were resistant, but still wanted that help. And so getting them accommodated to that. There were some challenges in the beginning, but I think we've overcome them, and they're actually finding it that actually this is more comfortable for me. Like it's more accessible for me, especially with those, because I also have a certification in rehabilitation counseling. So working with individuals who have disabilities, and so making sure that, it's been even more accessible to those who have disabilities. But even more so, I think what I've seen is that a lot of people, especially like I said, in the Black community and the Latinx community as well, are taking advantage of seeking therapy because it's right there.
Okay.
And so having that opportunity, and what I always tell people is take that time to interview your counselor. So because a lot of people are jaded by that one counseling experience that didn't go well.
Right.
What people need to understand is that it's about having a good fit, and you're not going to fit well with everybody. So take that time to meet that person, feel out their energy, and it may be kind of difficult because we're meeting via a screen, but honestly, you can tell if this person is willing to really work for you and advocate for you. And so it's just taking that leap of faith and going out there and knowing that it's more accessible to you now than it has ever been. And so really, I think people have been paying attention to that with the Black Lives Matter movement. It highlighted mental health. And so a lot of people were like, I've always thought about it, but are considering it even more. Celebrities are talking about seeking mental health treatment. So that has pushed it as well. And I think because we're ultimately faced, when we're in quarantine, there is no ignoring. Everybody's been affected by this. This was not our norm. And like I myself, I would personally say I'm an introvert. So at first I was like, oh, this is the bee's knees. Like I'm at peace, like I'm not being bothered, like I don't have to go outside. Like it was just, I remember making a mug for my mom, and she was just like, she loved quarantine. She was like, the best thing ever. And it's to a point where I think a lot of us struggle, and that becomes that control thing, where people are telling you can't do something. Okay, and so then that's where we're like, oh, I don't like this anymore.
Yeah.
And it becomes uncomfortable, or we start seeing people, our loved ones are passing away due to this COVID-19. That's adding pressure to things. Like we're not allowed to attend a funeral.
Right.
I had an uncle who passed away, and it was just a conversation on the phone.
Right.
And I said, should we hold a memorial service via Zoom? Like, what should we do? Like, what do we do? But also the process of like, oh, it's going to take weeks to claim the body, and it was just. And it's just such a reality shock for a lot of people. But normalizing that we're all going through this together. For some people, it's more difficult than others. But we're not here to judge you.
Right.
And I think what people have to realize is mental health professionals are rooting for you. They're not judging you. They're welcoming for you. And it's just, we're here again to be that unbiased soundboard that you need. So you can have that empowerment, because at the source of a lot of the work that I do, it's about feeling empowered. Make the decisions that you need to make to prioritize yourself, to do the work that needs to be done so that you can feel good about where you're going and who you are.
What's next for you, Princess? You're doing so many great things in New Orleans, and you're passionate about the things that you're doing. What would you like to see yourself do next? What's next for you?
Well, like I said, I'm gonna be completing my doctorates in December. So I'll be done with that, and that'll give me the opportunity to teach at a university level. And so right now I am actually adjunct teaching at a university level right now. And so for me, I've been having conversations with my partner about moving to Atlanta, but for a lot of my clients, I think even some friends and professionals, colleagues are just like, what does that mean for like your practice that you started here? I'm like, no, I want to continue that.
Yeah.
I think that's the benefit of having access to telehealth is that I'm like, I don't want to abandon my clients,
Right.
and so it's just a matter of like, hey, I want to maintain my licensure in Louisiana and get a licensure in Georgia, and just spread my wings and serving and advocating and really working in my purpose. Because I think what people have to realize is that you're truly happy when your passion and your purpose are married. And so that's the work that needs to be done. I think I will forever be grateful to New Orleans, just like I'm grateful to the Virgin Islands for really shaping who I am and really fostering that passion that I have now. And I want to continue spreading my wings. It's not about abandonment. I think that's really the work that I want to be done, is just taking my agency further. Working in a university setting allows me to help foster the growth and the resources and the tools that future counselors need, because I'm very passionate about the gatekeeping for the profession. Because I think a lot of people have to understand that when people see counselors, I was like, this is their first introduction to mental health care.
Right.
Looks like. And I don't want people to be scared away. I want people to understand, especially in our community, that this is for you and it's by you, and we're here for you. And so I'm very, very, very passionate about that, and really pouring into the counselors of tomorrow for them to understand how important it is for you to have that multicultural competency and those tools and resources available to you, as well as mentorship, because that's a huge role in our profession, also our community, that we have mentors who are guiding you and have experience to speak from. So you have to go through those experiences by yourself. And I will say to a lot of people, I have done a lot of my education in predominantly white institutions, like from grade school to undergrad, my master's, and even now with my PhD. And it's allowed me an opportunity to grow, and grow past some of those obstacles that were presented to me, and really understand what Black Americans are facing, because that was something that was difficult to me at first, because I consider myself Afro-Caribbean. Growing up in a predominantly Black culture, and we are the majority, and we are empowered, and we talk about slavery. It is about the heroes of slavery. We focus on the negativity, and so really having that mindset and coming to the States and really experiencing racism for the first time was difficult and challenging, but also I had that community, that village that was like, you're not alone. And this is, what's available to you. This is what you can do. But having that opportunity to reflect for yourself, who you want to be, where you want to go, what you want to represent, what role you want to play in your community, because it's not enough just to be there for yourself. You have to leave that legacy. And I think that's really what's been focusing on in our African American community as well, is the importance of leaving that legacy behind as well.
You got a lot of great work ahead of you, Princess. You've done some great things already, and I'm excited for you. Congratulations on getting your PhD at the end of the year. And of course, you're always welcome to come here to Atlanta. You guys can come on, and we could take two more. Come on and be here with us. I think your telehealth practice will continue to grow. Hopefully after the conversation today, some people will just call you and ask for some advice. How can people reach you, Princess? What's the best way for people to contact and reach you and find you?
So you can reach me on my website, www.compassionatecarecounselingcenter.com. I'm also on Instagram, the Compassionate Counselor. You can find me on Instagram as well. But like I said, I'm very welcoming. Like, I'm more than happy to answer any questions, or even just like, I think a lot of people are just hesitant and just kind of know what to expect when it comes to counseling, and the differences between like counseling and life coaching and different things like that. And just the importance of taking that first step and asking those questions. And I'm more than happy to answer them as well.
Awesome, awesome. Princess, thank you so much for your time today. This has been very, very informative, and I know it's going to help people that are listening and just trying to understand how to check in. It's been 6 months. How do we check in with our mental health, and what are some of the things that we need to do to just continue to keep moving forward in a positive space? And a lot of takeaways, and the one thing here is we have to learn how to balance, right? We got to balance, and we got to prioritize things that are important for ourselves. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. It was truly a pleasure.
Thank you. That's my time for me today. You guys know where you can find me. Real Chicks Rock, I am everywhere. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. Check out our website. It's realchicksrock.com. We're pushing masks and we're pushing T-shirts. Yeah, we're doing it too. We are a small business as well as a nonprofit. So we thank you guys for all the support that you guys have been providing to us. I want to shout out all of our listeners that are listening as far as Germany and Paraguay. Thank you so much, guys, for your support and listening to us. We are super excited that we are reaching the UK and people are checking us out way across the pond. We're going to continue to give you good content, and we just thank you so much for checking us out. That's it. That's my time for today. Until next time, you guys be well, take care, and continue to rock on.